It's a mean age. But it is going to be a beautiful future as long as we don't fuck it up. I'm Brian McWilliams, and this is Mean Age Daydream, where I bring you unfiltered comedy, criticism, philosophy, and politics with a Mean Age Daydream. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream. I am Brian McWilliams, and I am really basking in the glory of the fire, the warmth of the fire that is Robbie, the Fire Bernstein, who's joining me today. Hey, Robbie.
What's up, man? I feel like every time I come back to the studio, it's like just different. But however the lighting is right now, I feel like this is what I need in my life. I feel like I got a good glow. However this is,
Yeah.
I should maybe just stay permanently seated like this and just line up as many podcasts as I can, like one of those old games where they like put a hand on a car type thing.
Oh, totally. You should cut a hole in the bottom of your chair. I just noticing. I was meaning to ask you. You've got a very fancy gamer chair now. Are you like Twitch streaming now? Are you?
So, no.
Are you Louis J. Gomezing it?
The answer is every time we do I prefer to. I stay in front of your mouth, and every time we do a part of the problem, I go, I desperately need another chair. And I bought this chair a while ago because I didn't have any furniture in my apartment. And
You just slept in it, ate in it, fucked in it.
I was like, I heard that these are good if you're actually a lazy fat fuck and you want to spend time, sitting in a chair for a while. It came recommended. It was all of $200, and let me tell you,
Oh wow.
this chair hurts everything. It's a terrible chair. If I spend too much time sitting in it, my neck hurts, everything hurts. And then literally every time we do a part of the problem, I'm like, I look like a fucking dumbass. I have to at least get a normal chair for part of the problem. And then I was actually surprised. Somebody memed me the other day.
Oh, nice.
Where they took me and someone else, and they're like, word to the wise, never take advice from a podcaster that doesn't have a woman in his life to tell them that this doesn't look good.
Dude, do you ever watch this show called Adventure Time?
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this.
I mean, not recently, but yes,
a
when
while
I was
back.
in college, it was perfect procrastination because it was always, like the episodes were 10 minutes. I go, I'll
Right.
just watch one, and then I'd watch a whole season, be like, I'm a child. This is for children.
It's a great show, but there's a character there. I think his name's like Daniel or Nathaniel or something, who is like the Rainbow Wizard, and he had this perfect coiffed hair, which looks exactly like your seat behind your bald head. Looks exactly like the hair of the little rainbow gay wizard on Adventure Time.
I think someone pointed out that it almost looks like Dark Helmet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you get your Spaceballs in for sure.
Yeah, it's not bad. By the way, when I saw that meme, my first someone like sent it to me, and I was like, shit, that's funny and true, so I can't get mad about it. But then there was the other part of me. I was like, fuck you, you New York City comic going after another, go find some other fucking podcaster sitting in a gamer chair. But I'm like, but he's so right, and I keep ignoring it, and there is no lady in my house to tell me that's not good, doesn't look good, so he's got me.
No, I mean, and
no one should take advice from me either. I'll take I'll take his side on that one as well.
Of course. Well, and it's not like you're going to go out legitimately get another chair. Like that one sucks, but it's functionally still going to work. And as a man, we're just like, fuck it. I'm using it. And I bought it. I'm going to use it until it breaks my spine or it collapses.
Chair, and I can technically sit in it. Although I've had more than once where I've had a lazy day and spent too much time in it and then had a problem. I am like conscientious not to spend too much time sitting in this chair. I don't know why it's so poorly designed, but if I spend 4 hours, 5 hours on this thing watching TV or whatever, it's either my neck or back. It's like a seesaw. It's one or the other, and it's a problem.
So do you not own a couch?
Oh wow! I just knocked that over too. Wait,
are you? And I'm now I get to see the top. Yeah, I get to see the beautiful, roof at Robbie's house.
Yeah, a gap in the soundproofing.
Yeah, it's all coming together on this pod.
There's a couch right here, and this is the garbage that's currently being stored on it. The other roof tiles that you just saw.
I love it. I love that you've really made your house somewhere where women's screams cannot be heard. So that's impressive. That's good thinking ahead.
When I was first building the studio, the joke I was making was I was trying to make it rape proof. Not that I would rape, but that would be the benchmark of that I can scream racist thoughts without the neighbors hearing it. And I was shocked because there's another Run Your Mouth podcast, and it's a very different show with a very different personality talking about very different topics. And there was a lady from Florida who was into running who came across my podcast and actually came across that as being the first episode and thought it was hilarious, which I was like,
Nice.
oh, this is a sign that not everything's out, like that there's more of a market for what I'm doing, because
Yeah.
if there was one thing I didn't think one random lady into running would discover, or maybe that particular lady had some weird fantasies that she was trying to tell me about, and I blew her off.
Deep degenerative mental disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought like the Run Your Mouth name would also attract a lot of like very patriarchal Italian men that are just
Okay.
looking for other ways to tell their women to stop talking.
Yes.
You know, so they find podcasts like yours, just you're like, Sheila, stop running your mouth. Also good. Maybe you should incorporate a little bit more, how to slap your wife around in the show.
I can make that a segment. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So I look around like I knew as soon as I started this podcast, because in my new setup here, I'm in the temporary house. My daughter's bedroom is like right back there, and I know she's going to open the fucking door and interrupt us. At some point, it's going to happen.
She'll learn about how to get hit by her husband. So
that's right.
That's actually
well, this is my daughter. Yeah,
she could then relay to her future spouse to be like, "This is how you're supposed to keep me in line."
Yeah,
I heard this from my father.
My father knows. He knew how to hit me just right where it didn't leave a mark. It was we call it a 4-hour bruise.
Literally on cue, your daughter's literally on cue.
Well, let's show the people what they want to see. Daddy's in the middle of his podcast. Okay, got to go down with mommy. Okay.
Mama, then I need a pod.
Okay, she's downstairs. Okay, bye. Love you. Daddy's working, honey. In quotes. She's 100%. By the way, my daughter also only takes dumps in my bathroom now, which is great. So she may be. Are you taking a? Excellent. She's taking a dump with the door open during this podcast, Robbie.
I wish I didn't know that. In fact,
how's everybody else's day going?
We could just take a break, or
nope.
From a different
We're
angle.
powering through, man. This podcast don't stop. We're powering through.
Okay.
My daughter taking a poop with the door open as we're doing this. So, First topic. Well, first thing we got to tell people, come on out. Obviously, this is going to air Wednesday, but they still have time to get tickets to come for the comedy show. Oh yeah, I know, but I can't talk to her now. I'm doing a podcast.
You've made me thoroughly uncomfortable. Do you want to just take a break? I'm okay
She's
with the
not.
break. I know
all right, let me pause.
Hard out, but I will make an exception. You can take all the time you need to dad, so that I don't need to be looped in on this process.
All right, hold on. She told me explicitly she's not taking a dump. All right, let me pause. Let me pause the. All right, there we go. Recording resumed. The child going to the bathroom situation has resolved itself. So, yes, people can come out.
Acceptable fashion.
Yeah. Look, more podcasters need to incorporate their families and show that there's a softer side to a Brian McWilliams or a Robbie. You should have little children coming in during your podcast. People will be very confused as to where they're coming from. You could have an Oliver Twist situation going on, a little army of pickpockets that come in, take dumps during the podcast live. Then you're bringing in the whole NAMBLA crowd. And now we're part of the LGBTQ trans pedophile flag. And now those people can't come after us.
That all makes sense, but I keep my kids in cages while I'm broadcasting.
I know. My wife really took a stand on that. She took a hard stand about a year ago.
Anyway, they were selling them there was a border yard sale for cheap when they were selling parts from the border wall. So they were the top of the line cages for keeping kids in, because that's what they were designed for. And helps make sure that I don't have dumping kids in the background while I'm trying to broadcast.
Right, but then they're probably just shitting on the floor of the cages. Do you put newspaper down, or do you use wood chips?
No, the cages were built for that. It maintains the smells, and so it's not a concern of mine. They learn not to do it because otherwise they have to deal with it.
Right, they go in the corner and like a cat, you kick over the stuff to cover up the shit. I get it.
Yeah,
that's smart. Smart parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, getting into some real topics here.
Okay.
So I was, oddly enough, in the shower earlier in the same bathroom my child just took a pee in, and listening to Part of the Problem, which of course you're on Part of the Problem and Run Your Mouth, and you guys were actually occasionally, once in a while, but you guys were actually listening to the Donald Trump tape. Donald Trump released a statement, essentially a video statement, talked about how he would not comply. Now I'm going to play part of that, and then also it's going to go into the CNN story, which I'm sure you've seen.
All right.
Which is Fauci responding to CNN finally calling out.
Just because it doesn't work doesn't mean you don't have to do it. That's not the way science is. Just because something's unproven and doesn't actually work doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Well, this is, I mean, I'll play this whole audio. It's about 3 minutes of audio, and we could pause it. But I do love at the end, to spoiler, it's hilarious that the results of the findings are that it doesn't work. And he's like, well, it still works for individuals. Like, what? Like, what standard are we talking about here where a study happens that is proven that it doesn't work for a population, and yet somehow it's working in individuals? But hold on. Let me play this, and then we can talk about it. I want people to know what we're jiving about here. All right, here we go.
Called BA286, some 3.5 years since the pandemic was first identified. But if public health officials feel it necessary to ask America to mask up again, how many would comply? According to Gallup, in the first 2 years, public confidence in the U.S. healthcare system has dropped from 44% to 34%. And Donald Trump.
Now, that's a white pill, by the way. I have to say, huge white pill that confidence level has dropped. We'll just stop a couple times through here. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think Americans are legitimately waking up to the amount of horseshit that's been perpetrated on us?
Those are two different questions. So to start with, I was not aware of this stat, and that's very interesting to me that people were so thoroughly lied to. I guess that stat kind of says a lot because, people might not say that they've lost trust in institutions, but that stat where, you have to see a doctor, you have to get medical care, you're going to get honest information from people of, oh, I'll just take my doctor's word for something, or I now realize I have to do my own research, and the doctors are beholden to institutions. They don't have my best interests. Like, in other words, people's health and doctor recommendations are important enough to them that I guess you'll get an honest response. So I would have thought, I don't know how many people are waking up, but that is a pretty interesting stat, especially that it's being told by CNN, which means
right.
that's not even they're forced to reckon and acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's something that really is standing out to me in this whole story, and I'll keep playing it. But you'll see as this story goes along, even the fact that they're breaching the subject is shocking for CNN. And I mean, I know they were trying to get back to being a quote unquote trusted news source, which right. I don't know if I believe it, but since they were parroting the whole, hey, there's a new wave of code coming out too. But anyway, so back to this.
Trump took to Truth Social to again make the issue political, accusing the latest outbreak to be hype designed to impact the 2024 election.
But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates.
I am concerned that people will not abide by recommendations. And we're not talking about mandates or forcing anybody, but when you have a situation where the volume of cases in society gets to a reasonably high level, particularly the vulnerable, those who are elderly and those with underlying conditions, are going to be more.
I gotta just pause it for a minute. What the fuck face is Smirkonish making during this interview? It's creeping me out. It's like he's trying. It's like in Scanners. Like, is he trying to explode Fauci's head with his mind powers?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I also love how Fauci starts with, "We're not going to force anybody. It's not about force. It was never about force." It's like someone trained him. Hey, we really got to walk it back and pretend like we never forced anything upon anybody.
Oh yeah, man.
And so now that probably every time it's not about forcing anyone. We would never force anyone. Trying to revisit history and what he was a part of and try and pretend like that was never part of the protocol.
No, it's the ultimate gaslighting, man. You see this, Trudeau's trying to pull this bullshit in Canada. I mean, you see leftists pull this online too. The amount of times I've seen big lefty accounts argue legitimately, say who was forced. Nobody lined you up in a prison. It's like, well, when you're talking about losing your job, when you're talking about not being able to access restaurants, not be able to fly, not be able to see loved ones, like clearly you're coercing the living shit out of people to do this thing.
We wouldn't force you, but we do need to figure out ways to intimidate everybody to make sure that there's compliance, not force.
No, I lit your house on fire, but I didn't make you leave the house. It's your choice whether or not you want to burn in the house. I don't know what to tell you.
We're going to need compliance if there's a recommendation.
All right, here we go. Back into it. There's about let's see. Actually, I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the 2-minute mark here. If I can get this thing to fucking
I feel like he can actually peer into my apartment.
Even through your rape proofing, Smirkonish finds a way.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So this is fast forwarding. They're talking about this study. They're citing a study that has come out from Thomas Jefferson. Look at that. Thomas Jefferson coming through in the clutch all these years later to shit on the COVID regime. God bless that founding father. Right, here we go.
For reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference. He told the journalist Mayan Damasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review?
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual, when you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about as an individual basis of someone protecting themselves or protecting themselves from spreading it to
angry. It makes me so. By the way, I haven't watched this video. I just saw that it was like put out, and so this is actually my first time watching it. And you should know that usually when I first watch, like, I literally get like fucking
shaking
angry.
with rage.
Yeah, but. It's less. What did he say? It's less strong. No, you just saw a scientific study that said it doesn't work. Oh, the evidence is less strong. What a great way to present. It's like my directions weren't good. Someone fell off a cliff. You gave someone directions that there was a road there, and they weren't the most accurate description of how to get from point A to B. Well, it's like the guy saying that it was absolutely necessary.
Right,
the
absolutely.
Evidence just isn't strong. And then what does that
did
mean?
nothing.
Then you're saying, all right, so on a national level, it doesn't work at all. But there's some, you know what that means? But there's some evidence on an individual level. That means if you are so overwhelmingly lucky that a mask works for you, you probably are just overwhelmingly lucky that you have good natural immunity. You might be so overwhelmingly lucky that, I don't know, COVID gives you magical powers. Right. You're just describing some random schmuck who happens to be the on the statistical margins of the one, like what he's saying is masks 99% of the time don't work, but 1% of the time they do. So you might be that one person that it happens to work for.
Right. How do you have individual? I mean, I don't even know how you make the statement that it works on an individual level. Because like we were talking about, what anecdotal evidence is there a one-man study that's going around that these people are citing that we just don't know about?
I guess if you had a vaccine that killed 99 out of 100 people, but it worked for one person, he'd go, the vaccine doesn't work, but on an individual level. On an individual level.
Fentanyl, being addicted to fentanyl, we found on an individual level can be very beneficial to certain people. Yeah, it's fucking
Everyone
absurd.
in the world needs to watch this video and realize he's been pulling this shit since the beginning of this, and you were lied to, and there needs to be a trial. There needs to be a trial and let it turn out that he was clean and there weren't NIH payments and he wasn't colluding with Big Pharma and he didn't buy this from a lab. God bless. If we have an actual trial, an honest trial of Anthony Fauci and he turns out to be Scott clean, egg on my face. Hey, I'll admit to it. I'll go, man, I really fell for conspiracy talk and I guess I'm not that good at determining a liar. But I'm
already envisioning Fauci's lawyer if they can get back. Who was the lawyer for OJ that said if the glove doesn't fit, you can't.
Cochran.
Yeah, it's like something like that. He's like, if the vaccine doesn't prick, you cannot indict. Of course, it would be indict, but I had to make the rhyme. Yeah. I would love it. I mean, Rand Paul wants to put him on trial. I don't think it's going to happen, but like seeing stuff on this, seeing like CNN actually talk about it and call him out makes me think like, okay, are the wheels turning behind the
Right.
scenes now with the establishment where they're like, all right, we gotta nail this fucker to the cross so that we can move on and put all the blame on him
Right.
in order to move on with our other evil plans.
It's just a couple follow-up questions. What do you mean that there's other, like, what other studies are you referencing? This one seems definitive. Why
Yeah.
did you make the recommendations off of non-definitive studies? Why did we aggressively enforce this off of what aren't great studies? What does that mean on an individual basis? And then why would you even make the recommendation at all?
Right, especially considering you're on tape numerous times throughout history, not just for this, pandemic, but for previous ones, talking about how masks do nothing and how they were dangerous to actually wear in the beginning. And yet, why'd you change your mind?
It'd be great if he just sat there and go, well, it turns out I had it right the first time.
Sometimes you divorce an ex-wife and you find out that you're actually in love with her. That was me with not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a dick.
I mean,
So we'll see.
How anyone could watch this and not go, I was duped, I'm an idiot, and then be outraged and go, that was 2 years of my life. I have a child that's vaccinated.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yep.
But,
well, dude, I was at this anniversary party yesterday, and a lot of very liberal people there. Obviously, I'm in LA, and I was talking to this one gal who had lived in the UK. She was an older white lady, older white liberal, the evils of society. And she had lived in the UK as an actress. So, you got all the components here for somebody that's very, very isolated in her views. But she was talking about how masking was still a great thing, legitimately arguing to you that all you have to do is put it on. You can choose to wear it. You should be responsible. I'm just like, I'm trying not to get in a fight at this like pool party, but
right.
she's making it so difficult. And then this segues into a story I just saw today, literally like right before we jumped on, that I want to talk about, but just like bleeds also into like the evil of socialized medicine, because I want to share the story.
About the idea of, just wear a mask. Just wear a mask.
Just
wear it. So, couple things. One is, if you're wearing a shitty mask, I'm just talking out of my ass here, but I'm guessing if every day for an entire year you wear a shitty plastic mask out of some factory in China, there's no way that is good for your health.
No.
I can't prove it to you. I haven't run a study about blue dye.
They just did one.
Inside of a plastic mask that was made in a factory in China. I don't know, but just intuitively, I would assume with our understanding of safe and chemicals and the way that corporations tend not to care about our health and the chemicals that they will, that we're constantly confronted with, chemicals from a Chinese factory on a 1 penny, less than 1 penny item being up against your nose for an entire year on end, there's no way that's good for you. And if you're wearing the N95 masks, from what I remember only seeing one headline, and the problem with what we do is that I read information all the time, and then you have some things that like I'm 100% sure about, and then you get other ones where I'm like, I read that makes sense, but you got to fact check me. So this is a you got to fact check me one. But I seem to also remember reading at some point that the N95 masks are not healthy to be worn for long periods of time because you're breathing in your own carbon monoxide.
Well, there's that. Plus, here, I'm going to share. Institute of Health suggests N95 COVID mask may expose wearers to dangerous levels of toxic compounds linked to seizures and cancer. I know, exactly, to your point. Nobody should be in any way surprised by this.
Also, like, I've come to learn this for myself, and maybe this will help other people with their own personal problems. Once again, don't take advice from an unmarried individual who broadcasts from gamer chairs. But there are certain things that I wouldn't say, as a dude, you don't want to say, I'm afraid of something, because that feels gay. You're a dude, right? There's a lot of things.
I mean, unless it's being raped in a shower, then that's very straight.
There's a lot of things that I came to terms with. It's not that I'm afraid, but it makes me enough uncomfortable that I will avoid it. So, like, one thing that makes me, I happen to be kind of claustrophobic. And I've learned that when I'm stuck in places that make me claustrophobic, more of my bad habits will come out because I'm trying to escape my discomfort. Now, it's not an overwhelming fear. It's not like I am incapable of being in small place. I can do it. It just makes me uncomfortable. And as a result of the discomfort, I'm more likely to drink or eat the cake on the table, like whatever the hell it is, because I am uncomfortable. I can relate to everyone that if you spend long periods of time being uncomfortable, I think the actual term for it is ego depletion, that like you just kind of sap at your, you can call it your personal goodwill or your just ability to be disciplined. Like we've all had that. If you spend enough time at a job, you're just not going to have the mental focus to, go start your own business or do your own task or whatever the fuck else interests you. If you work a real, like, let's just say like, 8 to 7 type job and you want to be a screenwriter, you got to do that shit before you show up to work.
Yeah.
Because believe me, it's not happening at 8 p.m. when you leave work. On
Nope,
the same note,
exactly.
you can pretend like you don't mind wearing a mask. It's uncomfortable. Now, you might be better at being uncomfortable. It takes a toll. I promise you, for every single person collectively that spent an entire day just pretending like they were okay with it, I'm sure they consumed more calories when they left work to de-stress, or they were drinking more. It just takes a toll. So just objectively, one, there's a chance you're exposing yourself to chemicals, and for no reason, because if you're wearing one of those just open-ended there was literally no reason to wear it. N95 masks, if they were fitted properly, have some utility, but then you're also doing an evaluation. Is that worth breathing in more of your own CO2? Or the article you just said that apparently there's chemicals there. And then let's just say that they are totally not hazardous to your health. You're uncomfortable all the time, and that's going to take a toll on you, and for no reason.
No, exactly right, man. I mean, I remember wearing, I rarely even wore the N95s because I couldn't stand them. I literally felt like I was suffocating when I would wear the mask. And that's just breathing normally, just sitting around. Like I'd wear one once in a blue moon. I had to wear one because they somebody forced me to, I think, wear one to come in their house one time for half an hour. And I thought I was going to die. It was strenuous to breathe into it. And that has to take a toll without a doubt. And to your point, and I also think that, I mean, look how many people overdosed on drugs. Look how many people I mean, how many excess deaths that we're counting from heart disease, as you're talking about, from stress-related factors, from overeating, from diabetic, offshoots that then get you COVID. Like all these things for sure were compounded during COVID. And you look to places like Sweden, which of course didn't lock down, has some of the best results and the least excess deaths. Why? Because their population wasn't living in a constant state of authoritarian lockdown-induced stress, wherein you're going to lead to all these complications coming from the stemming issue of COVID policy. So, yeah, it all adds up.
Prosecute Fauci.
Yep. Every fucking one of them. That's why, though, it makes sense that they're going to throw him on the fire here, because it protects so many other people that would otherwise be culpable for everything that happened. You have to have some fall guy here, and Fauci's the natural one at this point. So,
yeah, he seems to be, it's interesting because I guess while you're still dictating all the money, I guess you have the leverage still, but I don't know what his current position is. And
he's teaching at Georgetown. That's his current position.
No,
he's out.
That's not the only thing he's doing.
I mean, I don't know if he's probably got some shady back deals going on, but
the other aspect of it is that, at some point, you have to have some loyalty to your soldiers, just collectively to talk about the machine. Like, let's just address it as the machine. If the machine always sacrifices, like, its better parts after they're done using them, you start realizing, oh, I can't be a part of the machine.
It's almost reminds me of, in one aspect, okay, but it also, and this might be a ridiculous way to describe it, it also reminds you, though, of, for example, using PEDs in sports to get ahead, or risking getting your head bashed in playing in the NFL, but you made $35 million. That's still an appealing thing. If you're part of the machine, and at some point you acknowledge, I may be sacrificed, but by playing the game, my upside in this is millions and millions of dollars, multi-generational wealth. You still play the game, man.
Saying there's enough upside that other Faucis will exist and go, he enjoyed the spotlight too much, and that's how he ended up in trouble. But if I avoid the spotlight, I don't push it too far, I can still make all this money, and that's a fair point.
And he was the highest paid. Don't forget, he was the highest paid government employee.
That's just
exactly. That's without all the kickbacks from the NIH and for whatever patents he had. So I mean, there's the incentive is definitely there at that level, at least. I mean, I'm not saying your fat black lady working at the DMV is enticed to to play the game, but for Fauci level, for sure, man. Well, one thing. So let me segue into this story I just saw, because this was sickening. Just talking about socialized healthcare, which is another topic I got into with this lady yesterday, but there's a story that just came out of a British court. Of course, the Brits love their national health system, or national health service, yet it is completely captured. You don't have the options to get a lot of services. And in this instance, a woman known as ST has a degenerative life-threatening disease, a mitochondrial genetic disease. And basically, I guess they're saying it's like Charlie Gard, which I don't know is a kid that was removed off life support because doctors insisted this kid was going to die, even though he was still alive. So this woman is older, has a degenerative disease, and is cognizant. It's not like she's out of touch. It's not like she can't talk. She can speak. Her parents want her to live. She's on life support, but is cognizant, is alive. And the doctors are denying her the ability to leave. They won't let her leave to go to Canada for treatment. They are telling her, we're not going to keep you on life support anymore over the objections of the parents and the patient. They are essentially just saying, it's time to die.
It's creepy.
I mean, that when anybody argues for even the British version of like, oh, well, let's just socialize our healthcare. That's the kind of shit that just, it puts so much terror into my soul, because if you don't have the option, like I could get it if they say we're not going to pay for it, right? As a nation, it doesn't make sense. But to deny somebody the ability to leave, to get to get this taken care of, now you're talking about authoritarianism on a level that is simply evil. And there's no way around it.
Yeah, because they don't want the proof of the fact that the kid could have lived. I guess once they made a decision that the problem with socialism is that they can't afford to be wrong, and so they kind of have to protect themselves. I'm of the opinion, and I'm not against the idea of Jewish space lasers that Oprah purchased to take out property in Maui, so that in this new world order of 15-minute cities, Oprah shall reign supreme. I'm not against the concept. It would seem to me that just good old government socialism of working with singular electric companies and pushing for them to make green investments instead of taking care of brush or other things, and saying, hey, we've got all of this under control, but then in the event of an emergency, having their emergency systems not working, shutting off water that they still needed, firefighters thinking the job was done when it wasn't. It seems
blocking roads.
What probably happened in Maui is just failures of socialism. And it also seems like they're covering up for what might be a lot of missing or dead kids. And I think when there's 100 dead kids, you actually get the outrage of the public of who killed those kids. And when who killed those kids is just bad government policy, they have to do everything they can to not let that story get out, because they don't want people questioning this. Like, government's whole thing is it steps in and goes, I got this. I got this. I got this. Don't worry about it. I got this. And if everyone starts figuring out, oh, I don't think that guy has it, that's when they start demanding, hey, I want to be able to make some of my own decisions. Forget it. I don't want to hand you this money. Let me make my own decisions. And you don't very often get, I guess, extreme storylines that really showcase the ineptitude that might wake people up of, oh, do I really trust this person who's saying that they got it? Because it's really important, if you're telling me that you're maintaining the electric lines or you're maintaining my health care, that you actually do have that situation under control. So it would sound to me like in the British example as well, if they've decided that a child can't be saved, they can't have the child then go over to Canada and then maybe have a storyline of, look, it only cost $500 in a non-socialist medicine, or, this actually wasn't that expensive for us to crowdfund $20,000 from people who are more than happy to give that, and now my child's alive. Look at what you're responsible for. That's the kind of stuff that they just can't have. And to speak to just how creepy it is, I understand if the government comes along, like, I actually understand either, hey, you can't afford this procedure, you can't afford this service. If you want to go crowdfund it, we'll give it to you, but this is the price tag for it. And I can understand that. I can even understand a government going, even though I wouldn't like this system, and this is kind of coming to terms with the way rationing works, of we can the insurance policy can only pay out per person this under current taxes. Your child is above this, or here is our risk to reward profile. Things that go into a 0.01% survival rate at this cost, we are not allowed to fund.
Right.
So you
Which
will
is
have
which is the
to-
way it would have to be, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, under socialized medicine.
to go, hey, things under this risk profile we don't fund, but here's the cost if you can come up with it. I can accept that. But to then go, hey, you're not even allowed to make your own, like, I understand if market forces you can't raise the money, which is tragic, or the government being like, we can't pay for this, but if you can come up with it. But to go, you're not allowed to try and make your own arrangements and save your own child.
Yeah.
That's just, you know what I mean? That's where, like,
It's a different level of
unsettling
cruelty.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different level of cruelty. Well, it goes to show you that at the end of the day, your government says, as you said, we got this, and our government cares about you, and everybody thinks the government's altruistic. But I'm sorry, at the end of the day, you're a number. You're a cog in the machine. You are a taxpayer, and that is all you will ever be to the government. The government does not give a shit about you as an individual and never will. And it's evidenced right here. And it's one of those things where this lady I was talking to yesterday, it's the same old argument. Well, you should be able, because I was telling her the cancer survival rates in the United States are the highest of any nation. Why? Because we've got the technology, people can pay for it, and thus they live. And she goes, well, you shouldn't have to mortgage your house for it. Well, what good is a house if I'm fucking dead? So I'd rather mortgage the house. Now, that doesn't mean that the price is accurate. Doesn't mean that our system's not fucked up by cronyism and everything else that goes into it. But I'd rather have the option to live and for my child to live. And the government should not be able to dictate that or stop me from exercising every possible option I have to keep myself or my family alive. And under socialism, it's just not possible.
Yeah. I learned from, I spent 2 years in Israel between high school and college, and I was trying to outrun the pain of maintaining, actually practicing Jewishness.
They were like, Robbie, you've got to stop showing up. You've got cum all over you. What's the little belt they make you wear? And if you're like a real deep Jew, the Hasidic Jews.
I think it's called a gartel, maybe. I don't know.
Gartel. Yeah, Robbie, you've got cum on your gartel again.
I was running a lot, and I loved it, because there were like these vacant hills by where we lived, and so I was a dumbass. I wasn't doing anything else, but I got real into running, and I was running an hour every day, and then like Tuesdays and Fridays we had like longer breaks, and I would do like these 3-hour runs. I loved it. It was amazing. At one point, I got to a point where I guess I ended up with like ITB band syndrome, but I was all of 18 years old, and I ran to a point that I literally couldn't walk. It became an issue. And I was like, oh, I got to go see a doctor. It took me a month to see a doctor who basically said, take some Tylenol. And, or after a month, it took me a month to get an appointment.
Of course, yeah.
Socialized medicine out there. I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going home in another month. By the way, I said I can't. To be a little bit more accurate, I got to a point, there was like 2 days where I literally couldn't walk. And then as an 18-year-old, I would get up in horrible pain and like take a couple steps and kind of find myself. And then I also realized I couldn't like run type thing. So there was something, I found out there was something wrong. It was amazing when I got back to America, and like one doctor just touched it. I was like, and it was the worst shooting pain. He's like, you have ITB band syndrome. You ran way too much, which basically like it's, running only works out some muscles, and if you're retarded and not stretching or anything, you end up with certain very strong muscles that are basically pulling on your knee.
Squishing the other ones? Okay.
No, basically, you get like one really strong muscle over here, and so it's pulling on your knee, and nothing else is strong to pull on it to keep it balanced.
Oh, to equalize the pressure. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But anyways, my one experience with socialized medicine was I will be in pain and wait a month till I'm home in America to see a doctor. And then even that system was not perfect, but I just realized like, oh, I don't ever want to hear about socialism again because I experienced it once and it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If I still lived in Israel, I'd take an Advil and in pain. I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about this because, Crowd Health's one of our sponsors, and talking about like the experience of dealing with doctors and that and insurance companies and everything else. I mean, I had diverticulitis, which is like this intestinal inflaming thing where like shit gets stuck in your guts. It's horrible. But it took me, I think, from the time I was in terrible pain, called my doctor, same day appointment, in next day MRI. I mean, the process was efficient and speedy. It was pricey, but I was in a lot of pain, and they were like, all right, bam, 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 go. You're done, taken care of. Here you go. Here's your scan. Here's what you do for it. I mean, in socialized care, you're not going to get that. I mean, you could go to the emergency room, I suppose, but then if they realize that it's not something where you're going to die immediately, you're fucked off back home. And then you have to wait to see a specialist and wait to get the CAT scan and everything else. So it's just, everything is going to be delayed because of the rationing of the system. And if they don't, if you don't like it, you have no other options.
Right. My experience with American healthcare is if you're in extreme pain like that, you kind of, what from a sales perspective, they got the urgency. You're stuck. What am I going to do? At some point, if you're in horrible pain, someone tells you to do something. What am I going to do?
No.
I luckily have not broken a limb as of I haven't been in that situation. I probably do need to see a doctor because I don't think I've seen one in 4 years.
Just in general.
I'm sure the general thing would probably be a good idea. Maybe I could explain my diarrhea and they could fix it. I don't know. My experience from previous incidents with doctors, if things were hurting, was that no one ever gave me a clear answer. I was spending progressively more money to deal with things, and no one ever had an actual solution. So I'm reluctant to see healthcare professionals at all because I find that for billing or whatever other purposes, there's always some tests that they want to recommend, and there's never a person giving me a clear answer or actually having a solution. So I'm just bearish on doctors in general from my own personal experiences. But luckily I haven't had a severe, or also I guess I'm not even trying to solve my current problems because
right. Well, I mean, I wonder if it's something where with this, if we can get rid of the cartelization of the medical industry and go back to kind of that one-off system where you can just walk in to see a doctor and pay them. The doctor is incentivized to just solve your problem right there because it's not tied into this whole network of horse shit where the incentive is to continuously push you along to, get the tests that are built into the system. It's not, instead it's like, okay, it's like going to your mechanic. Your doctor's like, good, thank you. This is the fee. I have fixed you. Come back if it's not fixed, and we'll try something different.
I think the whole thing is just built to be a scam, and it's a relationship between the insurance companies. And can I tell you what? To me, there's a couple things that I think would solve it, but one of the biggest ones is the way healthcare insurance is structured doesn't make sense to me because you should be buying into a policy. When let's just say you start getting healthcare at 24, you should be buying into a policy that you're buying into personally and locks in your insurability at set rates based off of your age.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lapse in coverage, then you would have to go back to start. But the fact that I'm on my insurance policy, let's just say for a year, and then there's a chance of job overturn or having to get a new policy, it incentivizes them not to actually heal you. Because if take Ozempic as a product. I know some insurance companies are using them and some aren't. The ones that aren't, and by the way, I haven't done my homework on Ozempic, so I can't tell you if it's actually a good product, but at the baseline, if you're morbidly obese and you're not losing weight because you've done the diet, this, that, the other thing, you're not losing weight. So if your insurance company would be incentivized to spend $12,000 a year for you to be 200, 300, 100 pounds lighter, because you and I could look at the math of what is carrying an excess of 100 pounds look like in 10 or 15 years from now. That's got to be extraordinarily more expensive. The only reason an insurance company would not be willing to pay $12,000 now to prevent costs down the line is because they don't think that they're responsible for those costs down the line.
Yeah.
It's a broken system.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that's a really interesting point as well. And I think that's also to your point about how there's no long-term incentive. The number of times I've lost my current healthcare plan, my insurance plan, it was like 3 consecutive years of them going, that plan no longer exists. You can't use it anymore. So you go, okay, what the fuck? So I've got to now opt and find a brand new plan to replace the plan because it got forced out by whatever fucking either market or by Obamacare or changes in the structure of the regulatory system. I don't know what it is. But to your point, you're continuously, whether you change jobs or not, having to reconfigure your health insurance. And there's always a million different variables and different plans and different doctors shuffling in and out at all times.
And listen, they do the math. So they probably know, let's just assume 20% of people end up on their insurance plan year over year. if that's the case, then they would like to delay every possible procedure and figure out every single thing not to pay for
Right.
within whatever parameters, because chances are someone else is footing the bill on whatever down the line.
Yep, exactly, man. I was just thinking the same thing. It's almost like playing a game of hot potato, and I guess now, especially because they have to cover people that have these life-threatening diseases.
Between the 4 insurance companies, that's even stupid too, because it's like there's 100% retention on insurance in general. So if you guys are all cycling shit customers at higher cost because you're hoping that the other ones get the larger fatsos, that doesn't, you know what I mean? It's like you've literally created it's a double perverse incentive structure. First, there's a perverse incentive structure that because of insurance, we're not paying out of pocket, so we don't actually see costs, and everyone's demanding the best possible care at all times, and it's at inflated prices because we're not paying out of pocket. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that between the insurance companies, they're driving up their own costs by not doing preventative medicine because they're passing customers back and forth amongst each other. It's just stupid.
Yeah, it's idiotic. I was just laughing because I'm just thinking, at the end of the day, I almost wonder if there's in trading places where you've got the two brothers at the dollar bet to ruin Dan Aykroyd's life. And I wonder if there's just a dollar bet between, Aetna and Blue Cross of California on who ends up with the most cancerous fatsos at the end of the year.
Yeah, there you go.
It's like fantasy football.
Speaking of cancerous fatsos, I got to take a quick piss. I'll be back in 1 second.
There we go. Robbie's back from urinating. This has really been a fantastic podcast full of different people going to the bathroom in different places, different ways. Really, I think, a fresh new way of podcasting. So last thing, man, before we wrap up the show here, I'm sure you've been entertained. You've probably seen this clip, but I'll play it here of a quote unquote Nazi rally in Florida. I personally do believe that there is a legitimate uptick, by the way, in quote unquote white extremism, but I don't think it's anywhere near what Biden thinks it is. And I think that the causes for it are fairly obvious in that everybody is telling white people that they suck, that the world is, that every problem in the world is their fault, that the country was no longer founded on people trying to live their lives, but in fact on slavery, and that everything has to be seen through the context of race, and white people are now at the bottom of that pyramid. So, you look at it, you go, I wonder what could be leading to these white people getting upset and wanting to embrace white extremism. I mean, what are your thoughts on that before I play this clip from this theoretical Nazi rally in Florida?
I don't believe that there's an increase in anti-Semitism in any way that anyone should care about. The idea that there's a trackable uptick, perhaps. I don't think that there's ever been good numbers kept on exactly how many people in this country identify as anti-Semitic.
I mean, they don't put that in the census, do they? Is that one of the questions when they go door to door?
They do. And the idea that you can track Twitter and go, well, more of these are racially charged. So I don't believe that there's any reliable metric to say that there's an increase. And even if let's say it doubled from 100 to 200 and there was a 100% increase, I'm not too concerned about it. It's almost like being overwhelmingly concerned with global warming. I can't tell you that the Earth's not warm. I can't tell you that. I don't have any fucking clue. But you know what I can tell you is that putting the government in charge of finding a green energy solution is the surest way to get to death sooner. And so in the same note, engaging in censorship because we're concerned about a couple Nazis that the FBI has probably put together to film some footage outside of Disney. Good luck with the censors. I'm way more concerned with that.
Yeah, amen, man. All right, so here's this clip, and this is from just a day or two ago, but it is especially hilarious because it is a Nazi that is endorsing a candidate.
I like the Nazi disco look.
I know, right? This guy's really he's letting it flow. He's got the buttons down.
Nazi disco stew.
It's awesome. He's gonna have John Travolta. I mean, John Travolta looks like a Nazi now, right? Isn't he bald?
Yeah. When did Nazis get into vests? That doesn't seem like a very Nazi thing.
I mean, maybe they just always been into vests, but
I like the red coloring though. The other Nazi who was real handsome and shredded, he had the Ray-Bans on and this red jacket, and I was like, that's a good look. I kind of like that look. And I'm looking at this guy. I used to wear a fair amount of red. I like the red color kind of. Oh, I guess the red and black. That's what it is. I didn't even put that together. It's the Nazi colors.
Hey, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to change their colors back to the creamsicle and white because they're like, fuck, man, we're just getting all these Nazis wearing our shit now.
Yeah.
This red and black's not going to work out.
So I guess the Nazis are coming out as gay.
All right, so here's Florida Nazi man.
There's a presidential race going on right now. Are you going to vote in 2024? What do you think is going to happen?
My vote is useless. I think Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine.
In support of Ukraine, you mean?
Hell Ukraine. Hell Azov.
Hey, there you go. Hail Ukraine, hail Azov Battalion. So there you have it. From the mouths of Nazis acknowledging that Joe Biden is the candidate for Nazis to rally around in 2024.
That's funny. That goes the other way of what I would have envisioned for FBI propaganda, which is usually, look, the white nationalists are rallying behind Donald Trump. So
that's what makes me think that this could be a legitimate one. There's a guy with just his entire head covered in tattoos that was wandering behind him. Do you see fucking Gollum from Lord of the Rings walk behind him?
Yeah.
Real quick there.
That's interesting. Did you see it was making the rounds today on Twitter, and then I tried doing a DuckDuckGo search, and I guess this, has existed for a while. And they only matched one face, so it's just not enough for me to jump on. But that the Azov Battalion was involved in January 6th. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I saw they had the same guy. It's kind of a guy who's got a hair lip or something, right? Like a funky nose that's very distinctive.
Right.
They
got to release the J6 tapes. Let the internet get after it and start matching up faces and stuff.
There is no reason. I mean, they're legitimately, if you're the government, there's no reason those tapes haven't been released. What was the other one the government hasn't?
Here's the craziest thing about it. Tucker aired one and got the guy out of prison.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the government can't admit, oh, wow, Fox News was right about something. So they had to go, he was released for good behavior. We all know what happened. They did a good job of presenting him one way. They aired the footage and like, why are cops parading this person around? Why was he outside telling everyone to leave? This guy shouldn't be in jail. And so he got out of jail. That means we're 1 for 1 of getting wrongfully accused people out of jail just based off of actually being able to see what happened on that day. The idea that we're not able to get more people out of jail off of the truth is criminal. I mean, that's like you're talking about government being creepy. We're literally 1 for 1 on being able to actually see more of the footage and a person that shouldn't be in jail getting out of jail.
Yep.
It's fine,
And there's no. I refuse to believe there's any. I don't even know what their justification for this is for keeping these tapes private.
I think it's they won't. I think it's protecting assets. I don't know that they've totally acknowledged it, but it's got to be that.
I mean, I guess that's the only thing I could possibly think of because they're never going to tell us because otherwise we're talking about security cam footage. You're talking about shit that should be very easily available. There's no going to be security cameras that show any government secrets going on there. You're talking about the hallways of the building. So yeah, man, I think exactly to your point, they have to make an example of these people, right? We know that. And it's simply about making a statement, even beyond the quote unquote extremism angle, which they're clearly playing up here, that Trump has caused these people to become extreme and yada, yada, and to justify the now banned, temporarily at least, social media and external contractor tracking and tracing of quote unquote extremists and censoring their speech.
Right.
But now it's just a simple matter of a power play. It's a public trial to showcase that if you dare to step into or challenge government at its heart, if you believe that that's the heart of our government anyway, that you will be punished and that there will not be a savior for you. And if and anybody like that one guy being saved is enough to rattle the very core of the government. So yeah, there's no way they're going to let that out because they know that it'll exonerate all those people and it'll expose this as a sham and a power play to instill fear in the population. I mean, that's
all right. Let's. I think I cut you off when we were plugging Summer Report Store, which is very not Jewy of me.
Yes. Well, go ahead. You can plug away.
Everyone, Summer Report Store this Friday and Saturday, or is it Saturday, Sunday? Saturday, Sunday.
Or Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
Hanging out with Brian McWilliams. We're doing 2 shows. First show is going to be at your house in, I believe it's Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, yes.
Hawthorne, Los Angeles, and you fucking Los Angeles people. I go to the middle of the country. People are driving 3-4 hours to show up to Porch Store because I only show up once a year, and it's a party in a backyard. Tickets are only $20. You show up, you get stand-up show, you get a live podcast, you get to hang out with other like-minded individuals, you get to hang out in a backyard, you don't have to deal with venues and have a beer. I don't want to hear, oh, it's not in my LA. It's not in my backyard. Just fucking get in your car, dude. It's Saturday night. You're not going to have that much traffic.
Friend of the show, Vanessa Chase, is driving 3 hours just to come see our podcast at my house.
Hell yeah.
So,
these people are lunatic. I don't hear any complaints in other parts of the world. You fucking LA pricks. Oh, it's 20 minutes? I can't drive 20 minutes. You spend your whole fucking lives in your car in LA. Just come out.
Your ass is going to be less sore driving in your car than Robbie's ass is right now from sitting in his shitty gamer chair for 40 minutes.
I'm sitting on a plane for 6 hours. I don't need to be in your personal backyard. Coming out
with diarrhea the entire time behind you.
That is true.
He's just clenching his asshole in the air.
So we're doing 2 shows this weekend. It's Saturday at your house, stand-up and live podcast. And then Sunday, beautiful like farm type property in Lagawanja or something. I don't know how to pronounce Lagunja. It's about an hour and a half south of LA. So I guess if you're San Diego or those areas, a little bit easier to come out for, and that's going to be a stand-up show. So come hang out.
They will be bangers, people. Yeah, make sure to come out. I'll put the link in the show notes, guys, and hopefully we'll see many of you and get drunk, get horny. I've got the orgy pit lubed up.
Ooh,
that was part of the renovations.
Maybe
some nails sticking out. I made it myself. So if you get caught in a nail, get your tetanus shots beforehand.
That's not what I want to hear about an orgy.
You're like, oh, is somebody fucking my ass, or is that a nail that didn't get hammered in? All right, Robbie. Well, awesome, man. I will see you soon, my friend.
Not another orgy pit nail.
All right, tell everybody where to find you, in addition to, of course,
Robbie the Fire, Run Your Mouth podcast, no longer available on YouTube. They can go fuck themselves.
Those motherfuckers.
From materials from 6 months ago. I'm done. I'm done playing the YouTube game. They don't deserve the Fire content for the 300 people that were watching it.
Goddamn fuckers, man. I told you, they did the same shit to us forever. It's always old stuff. It would tie it into whatever the government was pushing at the time that they wanted to censor, and they just dig shit out of the archives.
So I fought the last strike and I won, which I was surprised by. I actually think that there's a part of their algorithm on giving strikes is even that like they'll let you fight 1 out of every 3. Like I don't think that there's any manual rhyme or reason. My last strike, just technically speaking, was for, in their little blurb, it's like you can't criticize any of the current It's like, if this was from 6 months ago, that's not even the current recommendation.
Right.
No one's recommending the vaccine from 6 months ago. So just technically you're wrong. And it was also funny because it was an episode where I had an actual doctor on. I got this new sponsor of my show, Premier Pharma. Shout them out. They're very cool. And I had the doctor from Premier Pharma, who is a doctor. And he was defending vaccines against RFK. He came on the show to defend vaccines, and somehow that segment was against COVID. I don't even know how.
That's bizarre.
I literally asked them. I literally wrote back, guys, if there's any criticism of COVID, it would have been questions, and it would have been against a no longer relevant vaccine. So I don't know how it could be against current recommendations. I was like, secondly, you got to check out this episode. It was with a licensed doctor who's defending vaccine usage. What could be the objection? After careful consideration, we have determined that this violates our policy. We know that this is disappointing. And then I write back, can you tell me how it violated the policy? And then they don't take emails.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, exactly. I've tried to fight it. We've never won. In any of the strikes we got, we've never won a single one. They now have left us alone for the most part. And I'm sure that it'll crack back down. Like the censorship apparatus is kicking up again. Like the Libertarian National Party just had its Instagram suspended for liking or sharing another post from an account that got zapped. And so they shut them down for a day, and then we appealed it, and they're like, okay. But it's just like the censorship apparatus is 100% ramping back up as we go back into COVID, back into the election season, because it always goes one way and one way only. And they're clearly targeting libertarians, conservatives. So anyway, good talking to you, man. I will talk to you soon. So for me,
excited to hang out in Los Angeles. I like that bar by you.
The greatest. We'll go there after the show. We'll go after a couple hours.
I think I got a package through Spirit, which surprisingly, I mean, we'll see how terrible all my travels go. But I was surprised to see that their package deals are pretty good. That if you tack on cars or hotels, the hotels are like considerably cheaper. So I believe I'm staying at the Hilton by the airport.
Oh,
I
nice.
got it for like $100 a night, which was a steal.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to figure out maybe getting someone to pick me up and taking an Uber back so that I can drink while I'm partaking in the porch.
Of course.
I don't want to be
Well, I could come
relegated to
pick
a
you up.
I don't want to be relegated to a motor vehicle.
No, of
Well,
course. No, I'll come pick you up. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
It's just
but then
the
there's
Ubering
no-
back.
Unless for some reason I'm hoping to have a party.
A
night
sexy
that
lady.
night. I don't think there's any reason. Oh, that could be true too. But I'm just hoping to make like sometimes there's some porch tours where it's like I can't really like because they're just too stacked or whatever. But I don't. There's no reason why I can't have a party night that night.
Damn right. Let's do it, man.
Hell yeah.
All right. Awesome, buddy. I'll see you soon. From me, from Robbie the Fire, from Lions of Liberty, from Electric Liberty Land. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe. And keep that ray gun. I fucked my own outro up to my head. All right. Goodbye.
Later, dude.